Let us keep moving. Here is question 1. Quick check. Web App Protect Inc.'s public web application, using an application load balancer, ALB, is experiencing web attacks. A solutions architect needs to mitigate the risk of DDoS attacks. What should be done? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option D. Shield Advanced attaches to the ALB and adds 24/7 DRT. AWS Shield Standard offers baseline protection against common DDoS attacks for all AWS customers. For more comprehensive protection against larger and more sophisticated DDoS attacks, AWS Shield Advanced should be enabled. Shield Advanced can be associated with resources like application load balancers, providing advanced attack mitigation, 24/7 access to the AWS DDoS response team, DRT, and cost protection against DDoS-related usage spikes. This is the primary AWS service for robust DDoS mitigation. Hi everyone, Stack Lessons here. We've got 10 more questions in the books today. Topic is DynamoDB PITR, IAM execution roles, and EKS Autoscaling. Each gets a 6-second countdown so you can commit to an answer before the reveal. Take your time. Keep score as you go. I will ask for your total at the end. Let us keep moving. Question 2. Read it carefully. Quick check. Shared Storage Inc. needs a system to store client case files, which are core company assets and will grow over time. Files must be simultaneously accessible from multiple application servers, EC2 Linux instances. The solution must have built-in redundancy. Which storage solution is most appropriate? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option A. EFS mounts concurrently. EBS plus rsync breaks under load. Amazon Elastic File System, Amazon EFS, provides scalable, elastic, cloud-native file storage for Linux-based workloads. It supports the Network File System, NFS, protocol, and allows thousands of EC2 instances to connect concurrently to an EFS file system. EFS is designed for high availability and durability, storing data redundantly across multiple availability zones within a region, meeting the requirements for shared, simultaneously accessible, and redundant storage. Ready? Question 3. Track every qualifier. Transaction Guard Inc. runs a shopping application using Amazon DynamoDB for customer information. In case of data corruption, they need a recovery point objective, RPO, of 15 minutes and a recovery time objective, RTO, of 1 hour. What DynamoDB feature should be primarily used? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option D. PIR hits any second in 35 days, RPO and RTO covered. DynamoDB point-in-time recovery, PITR, helps protect your tables from accidental writes or deletes. With PITR, you can restore that table to any point in time during the last 35 days, down to the second. This meets the 15-minute RPO. Restoring a table from a PITR backup can typically be done within an hour, satisfying the RTO. Ready? Question 4. Wording first, memory second. Transaction Guard Inc. runs a shopping application using Amazon DynamoDB for customer information. In case of data corruption, they need a recovery point objective, RPO, of 15 minutes, and a recovery time objective, RTO, of 1 hour. Which DynamoDB feature is central to this recovery strategy? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option B. Same scenario, reworded, the answer is still PITR. DynamoDB point-in-time recovery, PITR, provides continuous backups of your table data, allowing you to restore your table to any single second during the preceding 35 days. This capability directly supports a low RPO, like 15 minutes, as you can restore to a point just before corruption, and enables restoration within an hour, meeting the RTO. Ready? Let's open question 5. Compute Optimator Advisor has a large fleet of EC2 instances running various workloads. They suspect many instances are over-provisioned, leading to unnecessary costs. They need a way to get recommendations for right-sizing these instances with minimal manual analysis. Which AWS service can provide these recommendations? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option A. Compute Optimizer, Analyze Utilization. Cost Explorer only shows spend. AWS Compute Optimizer is a service that analyzes the configuration and utilization metrics of your AWS resources, like EC2 instances, EBS volumes, Lambda functions, and ECS services on Fargate to recommend optimal configurations to reduce costs and improve performance. For EC2 instances, it provides right-sizing recommendations by suggesting instance types that better match the workload's actual needs based on historical utilization data. 5in, Shield, EFS, PITR twice with different wording, and Compute Optimizer over Cost Explorer. Service specificity beats generic-sounding answers every time. Let us switch gears. Slow down for question 6. Lambda S3 permissions. A developer has an application using an AWS Lambda function to upload files to an S3 bucket. The developer already possesses an IAM user with valid credentials for S3 access. How should a solutions architect grant the necessary S3 upload permissions to the Lambda function itself? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option C. Lambda assumes its execution role, no credentials and function code. The most secure and standard way to grant AWS service permissions to a Lambda function is by using an IAM execution role. You create a role that the Lambda service can assume. Then you attach an IAM policy to this role that defines the specific permissions the Lambda function needs, e.g., S3 put object to a particular S3 bucket. When the Lambda function runs, it automatically uses the temporary credentials associated with this execution role to interact with other AWS services. Keep your focus here. Question 7. Translate the story into requirements. MarketPulse Inc. runs an online marketplace on AWS, serving hundreds of thousands of users at peak. They need a scalable, near real-time system to share millions of financial transaction details with several internal applications. These transactions also require sensitive data removal before being stored in a document database for fast retrieval. What should be recommended? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option C. Kinesis streams events, Lambda strips PII, DynamoDB handles retrieval. This solution addresses all requirements. Amazon Kinesis data streams can handle high-volume, near-real-time data ingestion. AWS Lambda provides a serverless way to process each transaction, e.g., remove sensitive data. Amazon DynamoDB is a scalable NoSQL document database suitable for low-latency retrieval. Other internal applications can also consume the raw or processed data from the Kinesis stream, providing a flexible and scalable architecture. All right, question 8. Compare what is asked to what is offered. Global Finance Corp's 3-tier web application has its web servers in a public subnet and its application database tiers in private subnets within a single VPC. They have also set up a third-party virtual firewall appliance from AWS Marketplace in a dedicated inspection VPC. This appliance is ready to process IP packets. A solutions architect must devise a method to direct all incoming traffic destined for the web application through this firewall appliance for inspection before it reaches the web servers. The solution should prioritize the lowest operational effort. Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option C. Third-party appliance, lowest overhead, GWLB endpoint every time. AWS Gateway Load Balancer, GWLB, is specifically designed to deploy, scale, and manage third-party virtual network appliances like firewalls. By placing the appliance behind a GWLB in the inspection VPC and creating GWLB endpoints in the application VPC, traffic is transparently routed through the appliance for inspection. This method is highly integrated, scalable, and minimizes operational overhead compared to complex routing with transit gateway or using other load balancer types not intended for this bump-in-the-wire security appliance integration. Let's slow down here. GWLB is a service the exam loves to test. So let's trace the traffic. Imagine your bank deploys a Palo Alto firewall from the AWS marketplace. It sits in a separate inspection VPC. The question, how do packets reach it before hitting your web servers? That's what Gateway Load Balancer, GWLB, was built for. Traffic hits the internet gateway. A single route table entry redirects it to a GWLB endpoint. That endpoint tunnels the packet to the inspection VPC. GWLB hands it to the firewall, which inspects and returns it. Your web servers never see unscreened traffic. ALB and NLB are proxies. They can't do this transparent pass-through. Transit Gateway can, but needs 3 route tables and a failover script. GWLB does it with nearly 0 extra wiring. That's why C wins. All right. Question 9. Solve the situation, not the keyword. Web app tier isolation is designing a new multi-tier web application that consists of web servers, application servers, and a database. The web and application servers will run on Amazon EC2 instances managed by Autoscaling groups, and an Amazon RDS DB instance will be used for data storage. A solutions architect needs to implement network security to limit access to the application servers such that only the web servers can initiate connections to them. Which security group configuration strategy will best meet this requirement? Select one answer. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answer is option A. Reference the web server security group ID, not a CIDR block. Security groups act as stateful firewalls at the instance level. To ensure that only the web servers can access the application servers, you should create distinct security groups for each tier. The security group assigned to the application server EC2 instances should have an inbound rule that allows traffic on the necessary application ports, e.g. TCP 8080. The source for this inbound rule should be specified as the security group ID that is assigned to the web server EC2 instances. This method creates a specific trust relationship between the tiers, ensuring that only instances belonging to the web server security group can initiate connections to the application servers, adhering to the principle of least privilege. This one is all about who gets to knock on the app server's door and how AWS knows who's knocking. Imagine you have a web tier with 20 EC2 instances that can scale to 50. You want the app servers to accept traffic from those web instances and nobody else. You could restrict by IP address, but every time Autoscaling launches a new web server, it gets a fresh IP. You need to update the rule manually. Instead, point the app server's inbound rule at the web server's security group ID. Any instance that joins the web server group gets access automatically. No rule updates. The exam tempts you with CIDR blocks and network ACLs, but those are IP-based. They don't track which tier an instance belongs to. Security group chaining is the only way to say, only my web tier. Exactly. That's why A wins. Okay, question 10. The wrong answers are close. EKS Cluster Scaling Inc. runs its containerized applications using Amazon Elastic Kubernetes Service, Amazon EKS. The workload for these applications is not consistent throughout the day, experiencing periods of high demand and periods of low activity. The company needs a solution that allows the Amazon EKS cluster, both the number of pods and the number of worker nodes, to scale in and out dynamically according to the fluctuating workload, with the least amount of operational overhead. Which combination of Kubernetes and AWS features should be implemented? Choose 2. Review the answer choices on screen. The correct answers are option B and option C. 2 picks, HPA for pods, cluster autoscaler for nodes. B. The Kubernetes Horizontal Pod Autoscaler, HPA, is a standard Kubernetes component that automatically scales the number of pods in a deployment, replication controller, replica set, or stateful set based on observed CPU utilization or custom metrics. This allows the application itself, the pods, to scale in and out based on demand. C. The Kubernetes Cluster Autoscaler is a component that works with cloud providers like AWS to automatically adjust the size of your Kubernetes cluster, the number of worker nodes. When HPA scales up pods and there aren't enough nodes to run them, the Cluster Autoscaler provisions new nodes. Conversely, when nodes are underutilized and their pods can be consolidated onto other nodes, the Cluster Autoscaler terminates the unneeded nodes. This combination provides comprehensive auto-scaling for both pods and nodes in an EKS cluster with minimal operational overhead, as these are standard, well-supported auto-scaling mechanisms. Let's break down EKS auto-scaling. Pods and nodes each need their own scaling tool. Picture a busy restaurant at lunch rush. You first call in more servers, that's HPA, the horizontal pod autoscaler, scaling your pods up. But if the dining room runs out of tables, you need more floor space. That's Cluster Autoscaler. It adds new EC2 worker nodes. HPA watches CPU usage. Say your app hits 80%, it spins up more pod copies. Cluster Autoscaler then sees pending pods with nowhere to land and provisions a new node. Together, they automate both layers. Options A, D, and D all need manual steps or custom code. That's the trap. The question asks for least overhead, and these 2 built-in tools deliver exactly that. 3 takeaways from this session. First, PITR restores to any second within 35 days. On-demand backups cannot satisfy a 15-minute RPO second. Lambda always calls AWS services via an IAM execution role. Never embed user credentials in code. Third, HPA scales pods on utilization. Cluster Autoscaler scales nodes. Combine both for least overhead EKS autoscaling. Every pattern here, shield, PITR, execution roles, GWLB, HPA plus Cluster Autoscaler, comes back in exam scenarios. If you can name why the wrong answers fail, you own these topics. Keep going. One last thing. If these sets earn a spot in your routine, subscribing keeps them coming and helps spread them. Tell me your score in the comments. That feedback genuinely shapes the channel. Want a different certification covered next? Drop it below. And if the pace or the style could improve, send your thoughts my way.